Imagine I gave you two watches. One costs $100. The other costs $100,000. Both tell the same time. Both fit on your wrist. Both can last for years. Now imagine I remove the logo. Suddenly, most people can't tell which is worth 100 and which is worth 100,000. And that's not just interesting. That's the entire business model. Because if the difference isn't obvious, what exactly are people paying for? The answer has nothing to do with quality. And that's where this story gets interesting. In most businesses, higher prices push customers away. In luxury, higher prices attract them. In most businesses, making products harder to buy hurts sales. In luxury, it increases demand. And telling customers no is usually a disaster. Luxury brands turn it into a strategy. Hermès doesn't let you walk in and buy their most famous bag, the Birkin. You have to build a purchase history first. Spend money on other products, prove yourself, and even then, they might still say no. Think about how strange that is. A company with a product people desperately want, actively making it harder to buy. Birkin bags have outperformed the S&P 500 over 35 years. Some sell for over $500,000. Not because the leather is that special, because the story is. In 1984, Jane Birkin sat next to Hermès CEO Jean-Louis Dumas on a flight. Her bag fell open. Everything spilled out. She said she couldn't find a leather weekend bag she liked. He sketched one on the back of an air sickness bag. That sketch became one of the most coveted objects in human history. But the bag isn't why it became legendary. It's the waiting list. 6 years for a bag. And instead of destroying demand, it amplified it. Scarcity isn't a supply problem. It's a storytelling tool. Take a simple piece of leather. By itself, it's just leather. But attach the right story, and people see something completely different. Heritage, craftsmanship, exclusivity, status, identity. The material didn't become valuable. The meaning did. Louis Vuitton was founded in 1854, making trunks for wealthy travelers. That history, 170 years of it, becomes part of what you're buying when you spend $2,000 on a wallet. You're not buying leather and thread. You're buying into a story that started before your grandparents were born. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They think luxury brands compete against each other. But they're not fighting over products, they're fighting over perception. Rolex doesn't just compete with Patek Philippe, it competes with every other way a successful person signals success. A car, a holiday, a donation. Once someone decides they want to feel accomplished, respected, different, luxury products became the answer to that question. But here's something even stranger. Some brands learned to make their products less recognizable and charge more for it. In the early 2000s, the Louis Vuitton monogram was everywhere. Then, their wealthiest customers quietly walked away. Not because quality dropped, because exclusivity did. When everyone can see a logo, the logo stops working as a signal. Bottega Veneta figured this out early. No logo, no monogram, just their signature woven leather, so complex it takes years to master. The message? You know. If you don't, this wasn't made for you. The fashion world calls it stealth wealth, the most sophisticated form of status signaling ever invented. The more you study wealthy people, the stranger luxury becomes. Most people assume the richer you get, the more luxury you buy. Often, the opposite happens. If someone is worth hundreds of millions, who are they trying to impress? At a certain level of wealth, the game completely changes. Sociologists call it inconspicuous consumption, the shift from showing wealth to simply living it. Old money showed this for centuries. Worn tweed, scuffed boots, unchanged kitchens. When you've had money for generations, you don't need to announce it. It's new money that needs the logo. And that's where luxury takes its most fascinating turn. The most valuable luxuries are often invisible. You can't post them, you can't wear them, you can't park them in your driveway. Privacy, access, convenience, freedom, time. especially time. Warren Buffett lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. No mansion, no yacht. But he flies private. The real luxury isn't what people can see. It's the hours he gets back every year. So what are people actually buying when they buy luxury? People buy luxury because luxury promises transformation. Not physical, psychological. A Harvard Business School study found that wearing luxury items changes how people carry themselves, their posture, their confidence, how they speak in meetings. The product changed nothing physically, but it changed how the person felt about themselves. And that feeling, that's the product. Researchers gave two groups the same Red Bull. One group paid $1.89. The other paid 89 cents. The group who paid more performed significantly better on problem-solving tasks. Same drink, same ingredients, different price, different outcome. The price changed what the product did, not chemically, psychologically. Apply that to a $100,000 watch. When someone puts it on, they don't just tell the time differently. They walk differently. They sit differently. They speak differently. The watch became a costume. And when you wear the right costume long enough, you start to become the character. Here's a story most people have never heard. In 2017, a fashion brand called Supreme sold the plain red brick. Not a limited edition brick, not a designer brick. It sold out in minutes. Resale price, over $1,000. Supreme didn't make bricks. They had no expertise in construction, no heritage in materials, but they had something more powerful than any of that. A story. Supreme started as a small skate shop in New York in 1994. It became a symbol of rebellion, of authenticity, of belonging to something that most people couldn't access. So when they put their logo on a brick, people didn't buy a brick. They bought the feeling of being inside, of being one of the few, of knowing something others don't. The brick was worthless. The identity attached to it was everything. And that's the moment you realize luxury was never really about the product. It was never about the watch, the bag, the brick. It was always about who you become when you own it. Next time you see a price tag that seems completely ridiculous, don't ask whether it's worth the money. Ask what story it's selling. Ask who that story is for. Ask what version of themselves the buyer is trying to become. Because that's where the real value is hiding. And honestly, understanding that story might be the most valuable thing you take from this video.